Hello, good morning, and welcome to the final round of the 2021 E-World Cup. We're here at the Misano World Circuit. Marco Simoncelli, and coming your way very shortly is the final E-Pole session of the season. Before this afternoon, we go racing for the penultimate time this year. Tomorrow, we have the finale, and coming into this one, we have 4 riders separated by 11 points coming into it. They are Alessandro Zacconi, Eric Granado, Jordi Torres and Dominique Aegerter. But not only that, with 50 points up for grabs here today, all the way down to Fermin Aldeguer in 11th spot in the standings, they can all be in contention for the World Cup victory this weekend. Before we get going properly though, there is a bit of a change to E-Pole. Each rider can do a maximum of 5 laps, including their first lap out of pit lane and their in-lap. So 3 flyers in this 15-minute session coming your way very shortly. Myself, Matt Dunn, bringing you the coverage alongside Neil Morrison, Fran Wild down in pit lane. And we'll be carrying out some Part Ferme interviews as well, we are led to believe. Away at 12:05 local time, just 4.5 minutes away, Neil.
Yeah, exactly. And we obviously have a packed schedule today. It's not just the MotoE World Cup races taking place here this weekend. We also have the FIM Moto3 Junior World Championship, as well as the 3 normal Grand Prix classes. And because we had 2 red flags in Moto3 FP3 earlier this morning, thankfully, both riders that had incidents that crashed out and caused those red flags have been mentioned that they're relatively okay. But obviously a few delays, it means that we can't really squeeze in the full E-Pole schedule. So as you can see in the bottom of our screens here, we're going to have basically a 15-minute time where these lads are allowed to go out on track, and they basically are allowed to do out lap and in lap.
So don't get it wrong, and we have seen this with MotoE sometimes. It is possible. Now, you're going to be looking at some fairly sporadic times here in MotoE. Well, the difference between FP1 and FP2 is great. That is because FP2 was carried out in wet conditions, FP1 in basically dry conditions. Eric Granado was top in FP1 from Jordi Torres, Alessandro Zacconi. Mikel Pons, little wildcard entry between the top 4 riders there. Dominique Aegerter in 5th place. The top 4 in the championship, in the top 5 coming into E-Pole. Then you have Hikaru Akubo, Matteo Ferrari, the former World Cup winner, Fermin Aldeguer, the rookie sensation, and Lucas Tulovic, your most recent race winner. Casadei, Hernandez, Zanoni, Cardalus, Mantovani, Perilari, Maria Herrera there in 16th, Jasper Ivermer and Andre Perez bringing up the rear. That's some way off the all-time lap record from Eric Granado in 2020. He set a 142.9. He has 900ths of a second in hand over Jordi Torres. Alessandro Zacconi, though, 0.3 off, but that was just the first session. However, how much can they pull back in 3 laps in this E-Pole session? That is the question. There is Eric Granado coming into this one. He is just 7 points adrift from Zacconi, but no one could afford any mistakes in the races this weekend, Neil.
Yeah, absolutely not. Not least this man, Eric Granado, race winner a couple of times this year. And, well, of course, he had the bit of a mistake in Austria qualifying. A really bad qualifying there, down in 13th, but miraculously fought back to finish 2nd. And that has given him a real lifeline in the championship. He sits just 7 points back of Zacconi. Real shout of the championship for the rider, now in his 3rd year in this World Cup.
Yeah, I really think that the E-Pole and some of the results that we've seen so far this year really show that actually, in contrast to the first 2 seasons of MotoE, I should say, is have a little hiccup there. Oh, the sideburns are back from Torres. Good stuff. Qualifying, if you qualify further down the grid than the top 3 rows, is not actually so much of a disaster. You'll remember Matteo Ferrari coming through from the back of the grid after exceeding track limits in qualifying back in Jerez. Came through to finish 6th. Then Eric Granado from 13th to 2nd on the grid last time out. Well, this is crucially important, but it's not completely over.
Yeah, absolutely not. And Jordi Torres, 7th last time out. Incredibly, that was his worst finish ever in MotoE, going back right the way through last year as well. So 7th place, a bit of a disappointment. He was slow at the start of that race, a bit tricky conditions obviously for the riders. Back in Austria, where we had a wet track that was drying, and they just had to go out basically with no prior experience of track conditions. I think on their out lap, and that was it. Lucas Tulovic obviously was the man who risked the most early on to get that first MotoE World Cup victory. and pit lane now is open.
Yeah, here we go then.
Yeah, 12:05 local time.
Well, but having said that, you have 15 minutes to do an out lap, 3 flying laps and 1 in lap. So it's not as if you can just stay out there the whole time. So there isn't quite so much the rush to get out on track immediately. You want to find your spot because slipstream can be quite essential here, but it's not like Moto3, is it?
Exactly, it's not quite like Moto3. We've seen this format for MotoE qualifying once before this year, and that was at Le Mans when we had well, heavy rain. Basically, that affected this session. And obviously, one of the things we have to bear in mind was towards the end of that session, there were quite a few riders crashing out, which meant yellow flags, and also meant several riders having their lap times cancelled. So probably best to go out there early, try and get a fast lap time straight away, man.
Oh, that is a really good point there, Neil. So maybe these guys, in fact, well, perhaps they might find that is a bit of a strategic error come the end of this one.
Yeah, funny, the first man out of pit lane was Domi Egeter. I think he was the guy that was worst affected by some of the late chaos in the Le Mans qualifying session, where he got 1 or 2 of his lap times cancelled because of the yellow flags being shown. I think he was on course though to qualify in the front row, but then eventually lost that because of the yellow flag. So Egeter going out there trying not to let the same thing happen to him once again.
Here's Cassidy going out. Remember, he got a podium here a few years ago as well. Mantovani follows him out on track as well. Egeter coming round then to start his first flying lap of the session. Here we go then. 13 minutes left on the clock. What can Domi do? He's ditched World Supersport for the weekend, where he's also fighting for a world title there. He wants this MotoE World Cup to his roster, and this will be a big step towards heading towards that potentially tomorrow. Well, tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. Egeter, 4th overall, just 11 points back of Zacconi in that championship fight. And looking at his track record here last year, I mean, he had a 3rd place, then a 1st place, and then he was cruelly taken out of the victory battle in the 3rd race that we had at this track here last year. And that was a very, very costly fall indeed. Pretty much, you would say, was probably key to him losing that World Cup. He was right in the fight all the way through the year.
Only really seen one proper mistake from Dominic Egeter this year, haven't we? And that's been down at Assen, where he crashed out earlier on. Aside from that, it's been 3 podiums and then 1 4th place back in Le Mans. No wins thus far this year. But Domi, don't count him out of any of the victories coming potentially later today or tomorrow. Who else headed out on track? We have plenty of riders. Zacconi now heading out. Maria Herrera heading out just behind Kevin Zanoni. So you've got Alessandro Zacconi in front of him and Kevin Zanoni behind him. That's not potentially confusing at all. But here is Egeter coming around the final corners to complete his first flying lap. 1 more corner to go. Easy on the throttle out of that final corner there, turn 16. Can be quite treacherous, as we've seen over the last couple of days. Across the line he comes. And he has set a 1:43.9. So interestingly enough, that is a singular 10th off Eric Granado's lap time from yesterday. That would have put him 2nd in the overall free practice 1 times.
Yeah, impressive that from Egeter. That was 4 tenths faster than he's gone so far this weekend at this track. So he's right down to it. And yeah, red crash helmet in the first split of his 2nd lap as well. So Egeter is not hanging around whatsoever. This is the championship leader though, Alessandro Zacconi. Obviously we've heard some good news from him regarding his move across to Moto2 in 2022 with the Gresini team.
Yeah, good news for Zacconi, wasn't it? Could be a great weekend overall if he's able to take the title here, along with announcing a move up to Moto2. Weekend of dreams at his home circuit.
Yeah, absolutely. Would not get much better.
Hello, I was just going to say, on the Zacconi note, it is an interesting one how he and Axel Bassani both arrived in European Supersport in 2016, both super quick immediately. and really both impress. And then we've seen Bassani obviously this year in World SBK raise a few eyebrows and really become kind of a constant top 10 contender, really impressive. And it's really nice to see as well Zacconi's performances in MotoE paying off to see him get a Moto2 ride.
Yeah, absolutely. And you would have to say it's kind of deserved based on his performances this year. Zacconi has really stepped up to the plate and it's been leading the championship, I think, from what, the first race, second race?
Yes, first race from when he got that first victory in Jerez. I mean, with all due respect to the guy, I didn't expect him to take that victory then. He just came out the blocks incredibly fast. Good on him.
Yeah, so seen the first couple of laps coming in. And well, Mattia Casadei has gone second. Good to see him back after we didn't catch him in Austria because he was, I think, had a positive COVID test there, Matt. That was really costly for him, put him pretty much out of the championship fight. We do have 11 riders in the championship that could still mathematically win the series, but I think if we're looking at realistic contenders, certainly the top 4 covered by 11 points: Zacconi, Granado, Torres, Egerter, and maybe Lukas Tulovic, who is 27 points back. But even for the German, that is a big ask. Yeah,
hugely. That's very true. Very conscious that on your tower next to you, so we will keep you updated after the first couple of flying laps. Egerter tops the standings from Casadei and Pons on provisional front row. Ferrari, Kubo, Mantovani, Ivema and Pires, the only other riders to complete flying laps so far. With 8 minutes left to go, well, Egerter will only get one more flying lap. So the limit is going to be found. Will we see potentially some yellow flag infringements coming towards the end of the session? Because this could be a superb strategy by Egerter. We're having a little look at Ferrari coming around the final corner. Fran, you got something to add?
Yeah, not anything too groundbreaking, but I was going to say I was just chatting to Executive Director Nicolas Goubert before the session, and he said he hopes there's no yellow flags because obviously it's really exciting to have something a little bit different and see these guys able to proceed. Then you have the problems that can hit in the other Grand Prix classes when you've got everyone on track at the same time, and strategy can become key. Like you say, Egerter's still at the top at the moment. That could be pretty vital as this man's still not headed out yet.
Yeah, Eric Granado is taking his time here. Obviously he's got a strategy, he's worked on that with his One Energy racing team in the build-up to this 15-minute shootout. But yeah, Granado basically the opposite strategy of Domi Egerter. Now Casadei still sits second, but he's got to within 300ths of a second of Egerter's quickest time. Mikel Pons is third currently. Ferrari, Zacconi, Tulovic, Zanoni and Hernandez follow.
But looking at the timing screens then, we got red helmets for both. Hernandez a 10th up, he is from the main time. Then Zacconi, Aldeguer also up along with Ferrari, who we're looking at now, 200ths of a second up at the second split. He's going to be coming through the third very shortly. He's got Zacconi in tow.
Yeah, and of course Matteo Ferrari, double race winner here back in 2019, the first year of the MotoE World Cup, and knows this track intimately well. Of course, won a race, 2 races here in fact last year too. Loves this track and has a great track record here. Could he well be a name in contention for victory?
Looking at Kevin Zanoni come round the final corner on the LCR E-Team machine. Got to be careful of the track limits on the exit here. What about Casadei as they come across the line then? Anyone changes? Yes, it's Zacconi. Provisional pole position. Casadei in second. Egerter now pushed down to third. Has he got one more lap though, Neil? Yes, I think...
No,
he hasn't.
Because
so Egerter's done, yep.
Yeah, his 5th lap will be his in lap. So Egerter, I think, will be third at most. Yeah, and he's come into the pits, so that's it for the Swiss rider.
What about Aldeguer though? Does he move up at all? He moved up into P10 one of the last times around. He would have gone quicker, but lap time cancelled due to exceeding track limits. Are just reading on our timing screens there. Not got any more red sectors for the moment. Having said that, Zacconi only 700ths of a second slower at the first split from his own pole position time.
Yeah, we've still to see a flying lap from Eric Granado as well. Usually a bit of a qualifying specialist is the Brazilian. Pole positions in each of the first 4 races this year. but has had some difficulties in qualifying at this track in previous years with track limits.
Another qualifying specialist, though, is on a good lap. It's Lukas Tulovic, your most recent race winner, the German who has joined me and Jack Appleyard in the MotoE preview on Thursday. Still doesn't count himself out of the standings, the running for the championship, the World Cup Series. He's 0.02 of a second slower at the second split. But what about Granado? He will be starting his flying lap right now.
Yeah, Tulovic just 0.02 of a second off through the second split. So the German, number 3, is on a good one, as we see Eric having a bit of a moment through turn 3. Down into turn 4. Unmistakable helmet design there. And Tulovic indeed is fastest through the third split. We could well be seeing another pole position here for the German.
Oh, sector 3 yellow flag though. Who has gone down? Somebody, because that would have a big impact on some of these potential final flying laps coming in. We're not sure who it is. It's Tulovic. Oh, disaster. What a shame that the German's gone down. He just got potentially quickest. And unfortunately, that will mean he's starting minimum 9th place.
Yeah, disaster for Tulovic, who was on the front row last time out. Qualified second 3 times so far this year, but he won't be on the front row for this final round, unfortunately. And it's down at turn 14. We did see quite a few crashes in Moto2 there, and you can see the frustration, well, at that mistake. So could that have an impact on Eric Granado's lap?
Potentially so. Good news for Eric Granado, though, is he's still got a couple left. I'm led to believe, and keeping an eye on all these laps. Aldeguer has moved up to P6, so that is him done with this session for 3 flying laps coming in. This is Jordi Torres' final effort. Where is he potentially placed? 2/10 off at the third split. Where does he go? He moves up to 4th position then. So, Zaccone provisional pole from Casadei, Aegerter and Torres at the moment. Granado's moved up to P6. Wow, that was a moment and a half, wasn't it? A couple more attempts, though, for Granado. One of the fastest quartets, Aegerter, now just has to watch and wait.
Yeah, that's Mikel Pons as well, the LCR rider who won the race back in Barcelona. Look at Granado's style down into turn 4, getting the rear wheel out of line. And, well, yeah, Pons, he was pretty quick in free practice, but he's only going to be a best of 8th in this session so far. But yeah, all eyes on Granado. Now, the guys cannot do any more than 5 laps, including an out lap and an in lap. If they do more than that, their best E-Pole time will be cancelled.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty stern penalty. These guys have to be very wary of the lap count.
Well, Eric Granado is up at the first split. Jordi Torres was up at the first split as well, but 0.05 of a second down at the second one, though. Down towards the back straight he comes, fully tucked in as much as possible. So it's Torres versus Granado. The final riders out on track. They're both fairly close to each other as well. This will be pretty much it, I think. Well, Torres, this is his final fly, and Eric, I think he's got one more after this. So it's going to be like a proper E-Pole session, just watching one rider go out on track round together. Granado, is he up at the third split? Torres is by 1/4 of a second. Wow, this could be really special from the reigning MotoE World Cup winner. Torres, what can he do in the final split? Here he comes round the final corner then. Applies the throttle as much as he possibly can. On the limit he goes. The Spaniard across the line. Does he go pole? Yes, he does by 0.3 of a second. But what about Granado? He goes second now, and he's got one more flying lap to go then. Will it be a final pole position of the season to polish it off for Granado here ahead of the double-header of races?
Yeah, that's what we want to see. A front row made up of title contenders, and all 4 principal title contenders in the top 5 on the grid. So that sets tomorrow up really nicely. Now, the only question, of course, left open is whether Eric Granado can get pole. He's second at the moment. He is 1/10 of a second off through split number 1.
Now onto the back straight he comes. Careful out of turn 6, though. He evades out of the way of Jordi Torres. There are some big crashes coming out of turn 6 last year. Look at him back it in with the dark marks coming off the rear wheel. I think that could be a bit too wide for Granado there, was it?
I think it might have been, yeah. Didn't quite get to see that, but he was well out of shape going into turn 8.
He's in touch though, Neil. He's slightly off, 600ths of a second down at the second split though. So what about the back straight and Curvone? Oh, I can't wait to see a MotoE bike through there again. Here we go then. Tucked in as much as possible is the Brazilian through Curvone. Will he lift off? Hopefully not, potentially not. 3 comes, very cleanly done. Now breaking down towards turn 14. Careful not to lose the front end like Tulovic did. Cleanly through for Granado. He is nearly 2/10 off for the third split.
Yeah, Torres was so exceptionally strong in splits number 3 and 4 on his fastest lap, and Granado, as Matt said, 0.18 off. That is a lot to make up in these final couple of lefts. What can he do though? Out
the final corner he comes then, Granado. Will it be pole position or will it be second? He's currently second. Across the line he comes. No, he confirms it then, so he does go faster. But now it's just 0.229 separating pole position for Jordi Torres versus Granado. Second place in Alessandro Zaccone in third. Your fourth main title contender, Dominic Aegerter, in 5th place with Casadei just ahead of him in 4th. That was a cracking little section.
Brilliant stuff from this man, Jordi Torres. I think that's his first pole position off this year. It is indeed, yeah, in his title defence. And he's put himself in the perfect position to defend that crown after the disappointment of Austria. Really impressive stuff from him on his final flying lap. Especially, man, in sectors 3 and 4, he seemed to just find about 2 to 3/10 of a second there where no one else could. Granado give it his best shot on that final lap. It was kind of a rare situation in MotoE where he got himself second and he didn't really have anything to lose on that final lap. He could really let it all hang out, which he did in typical fashion, but not quite enough. But how about that from Granado? We've had 5 qualifying sessions so far. Sorry, 6 qualifying sessions so far in the MotoE World Cup in 2021. Granado has been first and second in 5 of them.
Brilliant, isn't it? Yeah. For Granado, top form, so fast over 1 lap, isn't he? Zaccone, that's a cracking job from him. Of course, he leads the World Cup standings by 7 points ahead of Granado. Torres in 3rd, Dominic Aegerter in 4th. I remind, 53 points he has to his name, so a bit further back. How about that then? Pole position for Torres. I really cannot call who is going to be top. Who is going to take the MotoE World Cup for 2021?
Yeah, Zaccone, his work cut out today with Granado. Torres starting in front of him. See there, Eric not massively enthused with that result there. He is pretty used to racking up the pole positions, but second will do very nicely indeed. By no means a disaster. And well, good to see the 2 rivals, 3 rivals in fact, acknowledging each other's efforts after that well, pretty entertaining 15-minute qualifying shootout.
Yes, a good camaraderie in MotoE World Cup. Jordi Torres and Eric Granado, good friends. They will be on a forthcoming episode of Pass the Mic on MotoGP's YouTube channel. Have them both asking each other questions. They're also teammates actually this year in the Spanish Superbike Series, and were previously teammates at Aspar in years gone by, the Aspar Moto2 squad.
That crash was very, very costly in the end for Lukas Tulovic, Matt, because he was pushed back down to 10th at the end. So the German will be on the 4th row off the grid. I think it was at the start of the 2nd race. We had here, maybe it was the 3rd, we had 3 MotoE races at this track last year. It's hard to keep count. But yeah, that's going to be a tough old job for Tulovic to get through to the podium from 10th on the grid.
But what about your World Cup classification leader then, Alessandro Zaccone? He will line up 3rd on the grid here today, 7 points ahead. Confident and happy after that. Signing for Gresini next year in Moto2. What does he make of E-Pole though, Fran?
Well, Alessandro, it's not quite E-Pole, but it's front row. And with your advantage, that must have been the key target. Talk us through the session.
Yeah, it's a different kind of qualifying for us because usually we did just 1 lap, but was good. Did the 3 lap because yesterday in the FP2 was wet, so for improve the feeling with the bike was important. Yeah, the qualifying was good. I just don't have a lot of grip with the rear. I lost the rear many times. Maybe we can improve, but I'm really happy. Starting the front row is very important here on the last two races, because the grid is also for both races. So it's very important, and we will try the best for the race, and we will try to fight to win.
Well, congrats on the front row and on the news about next year.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Fran. Thanks as well to our championship leader, Alessandro Zacconi. And as he mentioned there, Matt, I mean, these guys will be going into the race later today, really having just one full, dry, free practice session to work on their settings. And this one as well. And of course, they're chasing a really fast lap time here. Yeah, we're going to see, I think, a few guys going in with a few setup tweaks that could be a little risky for the race later today. But this man, Enric Granados, left it late, but did post the second fastest qualifying time. Let's hear how he got on down in Parc Fermé with Fran.
It wasn't quite the E-Pole today, but front row. And how was it doing more laps? Your strategy seemed the opposite to some of your rivals, with going out later and taking maybe the chance on like yellow flags.
Yeah, finally I think this type of qualifying is better for us, because we have more chances. You can make mistakes in the E-Pole, just have one lap wet, so good to take the rhythm for the race and see if the changes we did on the bike, it was good. And yes, I'm happy. It's very good because we will start second in the both races, so this is very positive for us. And yeah, I'm very looking forward to the race. We are ready to fight, and I'm very excited to it.
Well, congratulations on the front row, and we'll see you again later.
Thank you. Valeu, galera.
Thanks very much, Fran and Eric. Well, chuffed with that one, although I'm sure he would have loved to add another E-Pole position to his roster there, though. But hey, I think this has been perfectly set up for a blockbuster finish to the MotoE World Cup. 2 races to come. One more person to speak to, though, Jordi Torres, Spanish Elvis. He's brought the sideburns back. He didn't have them at the start of the weekend. I think he did it as it was a question Eric pitched to him, and that passed the mic filming. Spanish Elvis, number 40. P1, the reigning World Cup winner. What does he make of E-Pole, Fran?
Well, Jordi, congratulations. That's E-Pole, and with a little bit of a gap as well. You must be happy with that, and how are you feeling now ahead of the first race?
But we try to squeeze 100% in all the parts of the bike and also the tires in every corner. But for sure, if we want to keep this little gap or this motion to this afternoon, we need to improve the bike, because now I feel some little problem with the front suspension, you know, and can't release very well the brakes until the corner. But anyway, we are very happy to be here, and also we are a lot of aggressive to start the afternoon the race.
Well, congratulations, and we'll see you start from the front later.
Yeah, thank you.
Fran and Jordi Torres. Join us tomorrow then for MotoE. Well, no, later on today, isn't it? Race 1. There we go. Up next, Moto3 qualifying coming your way. Don't go anywhere.